Hello YouTube. I don't have one single task for this video. I have a number of them. We're going to paint the roll cage, and although it doesn't take much time on the video, that was quite a task. We're going to repaint the window openings. 3 out of the 4 windows that I painted have sags in them, so we got to correct that. We're going to restore the license plate lights. We're not going to light them. I just like the shape of them, so we're going to restore them and put them on the car because I like the shape of them. We're going to remove all the remaining trim clips from the outside of the car and then test fit the cover that I bought to make sure it fits. I want to remove the clips so we don't snag it on the cover. I bought a hood ornament. We'll put that on. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, we're going to replace the right front caliper. You might ask, why am I removing the seat? Well, 2 reasons. One, I've decided to try to spray paint the roll cage. Randy, what he does is take a foam brush and try to paint it, but I'm going to try to spray paint it, which essentially means I'm going to have to tape off the whole inside of the car and a lot of the outside of the car. And it's easier to do that without the seats in it. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is a little birdie whispered in my ear and said that the local track inspector wants to see 8 bolts holding each seat down, so I'm going to have to do that. I don't want to argue with a track inspector. I've spent the better part of a day masking and taping the inside and most of the outside of the car so that we can paint the roll bar, and that's what we're going to do now. We have 2 coats of self-etching primer on our roll cage. And I think it was worth taping it off, taking the day to tape it off, because it would take me longer to do this with a foam brush than it would be to spray it now. And I'm going to put 2 coats of primer and 2 coats of finish coat on here. So I would have had to do the foam brush 4 times, and I don't think I want to do that. So here we go. With the roll cage sprayed and all the masking removed, we can move on to the second reason why we remove the seats. Now that we have a center line, what we have to do is find the center of the holes for the additional bolts. And it's 11 inches from that hole to that hole. So if we divide that by 3, coming to the closest 1/16 of an inch, it's 3 11/16 of an inch from there to where we want this first hole. So we have 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's where our hole will be there. And we got 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now they're not exactly equal space, it's to the nearest 1/16, but that's the best I can do. And if I measure them all the same, then all the bases will be the same. We'll punch our marked locations. And drill an 1/8 inch pilot hole. In both seats. With the last hole drilled, we can go about putting the seats back in the car and mark the location of where we have to drill holes in the floor for the additional bolts. Now we're ready. With the holes drilled in the seat, we'll put the seat back in the vehicle and line up all the bolt holes and drop bolts into those holes. Now we can mark the location of the holes that we need. Take the seat back out. 1/8" pilot holes. Drill out our holes. Put the seat back in. We'll put the original bolts back in their holes. And now we'll add the 4 new bolts, which will make 8 bolts per seat. This bolt goes right through the cross member that used to have the seat in it. So we're nice and solid in the front bolt. The back bolt only has sheet metal in it. So what I did is I made a crossbar that goes underneath across the 2 back bolts just to fortify it. Now the question is how do I tighten these bolts by myself? And the way I do it is I put a pair of vice grips on it to kind of hold it in place, and then I go underneath and try to put it on without feeding the bolts back up through. We now have the driver and passenger seat reinstalled with the 8 bolts, 4 aside. This is the passenger seat, and this is the inside of the driver's seat. So we have 8 bolts holding the seat to the floor. Having completed painting the roll cage, we could take that off the list and move on to repainting the window openings. I painted these window openings getting ready for glass, and I have sags out of 3 out of 4 doors, so now I'm repainting them. Okay, sag all gone. Now what we need to do is mask it all off and paint it. With all 3 of the window openings sanded and painted, we can move on to the next project. Having taken care of the sags in the window openings, we can remove that from the list and move on to restoring the license plate lights. I'd like to restore these. They have a nice shape to them, and they go on the back of the car, and I think I'll show you where they go. I think the shape is neat. This one goes on this side like this, and there's a license plate bracket that goes there. I've yet to decide whether to put that plate on or not. My son has suggested putting a personalized plate on the back of the car with the name of the car. When I did the body work here, this is metal, but I cut out the hole that the light mounts to, and I'm going to have to drill new holes here. But we need to restore these first. I think the next step is to get this stuff into the sandblaster and get the paint off. We also have to get the old gasket off the bottom and clean up the lenses. And then I think black powder coat. That's what, gloss black powder coat. With our license plate lights sandblasted, we're going to get ready to powder coat them, and I need to make hangers for them. We'll protect the threads from the powder by putting a silicone sleeve over the top of it. We'll put some powder on these parts. And we'll put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. With these parts out of the oven, let's assemble them and put them on the car. And the last screw, we'll take the silicone protection off the threads. And let's go put them on the car. It's not quite that simple. This one just goes in and sits there, but there aren't any holes over here. So we have to drill some holes. And we want to be pretty precise about it because it'll be noticeable if they're not straight. The car is currently sitting on the edge of a ramp to the garage door. So what I've done is taken a jack and put it underneath the passenger side to jack the passenger side up to get the car to sit level. And what I've done is taken a laser and gone across the bottom of the car so that I know the car is level. And now we can take the laser and move it up to the hole. With the laser centered on these two holes for the license plate light, and we know the car is level, so we know that this line is level with this hole. And what we need to do is find the distance this far out. And what I think we'll do is we'll key off the hole for the license plate bracket. I know it's hard to see, but we have a horizontal line that goes right through the center of the two holes for the plate light. So we know how high to put the holes. We have a center line going right through the license plate bracket. So that's the center of the car. And we can measure from that point over to the first and second hole and measure the same distance over here, and we'll be symmetrical. Our first hole here is 10 inches from the center line, and the second hole is 11 1/8. So let's mark those out. We got 11 1/8 is right there. We'll start with a punch, and now we'll see how good my body work is. Eighth-inch pilot hole. This hole is a 1/4 inch, so we'll drill a 1/4 inch hole here. This hole is 29 64ths. Here's one. Here's the other. There we go. Now we got to bolt them up. Now there's supposed to be a rubber gasket that goes in between the light and the body, and it's coming, but it's not here yet. So I'm just going to put these in hand tight so they don't fall off. And there's the other. So what do you think? You think it adds something to the car, or was it not worthwhile doing? I don't know. I kind of like it. Having restored the license plate lights and installed them on the back of the car, we can move on to removing the remaining clips that hold the trim on the car so that we can test fit our cover. We're getting ready to send this car out to have the windows put in, and in preparation for that I went around and sanded and primered and painted all the window openings so that we would have nice cured paint to put the seals on top of. The guy that's going to do the work, or at least the guy that I hope is going to do the work, has told me that between jobs he's going to have to roll this thing outside, and I don't want it exposed to weather. So I've purchased a cover for it, but before I put a cover on it, I want to get rid of this antenna post and all the remaining clips for the chrome. We're going to get new clips or refinish the ones that we've got and put the chrome back on, but when we're putting the cover on, I don't want to snag it on these things. So let's get started on that. I've attempted to take this thing off several times now, and I've got it to the point where it actually turns, but it's turning all the way through. And if I put a vice grip on the other side and a huge pair of channel locks on here, I can't get it to come off. So this time I'm winning. I win. Let's try to take some of these clips off. This one doesn't leave me much to grab a hold of, but we'll take the easy one first. So much for that, snapped it right off, but that's to be expected. They tell me that between jobs or waiting for parts, they're going to have to roll this outside. And I don't want any more patina than I already have. So I bought a cover. It's supposed to be waterproof and all that good stuff. I didn't spare any money on this. I bought a good one. And now I want to see if it fits. Now, no matter how I unroll these things, they're always wrong. Now this appears to be the side, this appears to be the front and the back. So I don't know how they've got this thing folded, but let's unfold it. This is supposed to be a custom fit cover, but it's really saggy in the front. It doesn't hit the ground on the side. It seems to follow the windshield line. The fastback, there's no brake in it, so it looks like it was meant for a fastback. But again, look at it bagging on the ground. I don't like that. I would say that's not custom fit. I've been wanting to try putting these bumpers in place to see if it'll stop the hood from scratching my paint. So we'll put one on this side and one on the other side. We'll try to get this one out and put a new one in without damaging the paint too much. I don't know how you're supposed to take these things out, but I haven't found a good way to do it yet. What I usually try to do is break the little nipple that goes into the car, and then I can peel the top off Well, did it without scratching the paint. Now let's see if we can find one that fits in there. Well, until I get the right grommet, I'll use this one. Let's see if I can get it in without breaking it. There we go. It actually fits pretty good. I'm afraid it's going to be a little proud though. I think we have to try it and see how it fits. All right. That center looks okay. All in all, those bumpers fit real nice. I wish the rest of my seams looked like that. We can remove the clips and take care of the hood ornament that I bought on eBay. I bought this trinket off eBay. It's a hood ornament. It's not in the best of shape, but it'll look pretty on the hood. First thing we got to do is tap out these holes. They're all corroded up. Now this is not a bottom tap, so I can't get all the way to the bottom, but I can clean up the threads pretty much all the way down. It's a 1024 bolt, and that goes in nice now. After a trial fit, it turns out these bolts are the right length. So all we got to do is screw them in. There we go. Let's see what it looks like. What do you think? With the hood ornament installed on the car, we can move on to replacing the right front caliper. We're going to have to replace the left front caliper. It's leaking out of the bleeder screw. Now this will be the third time I'm replacing this caliper, and I gotta paint it and put it in. So let's get started. We'll disassemble this. Take the sliders out. There's one. There's the other. Take the O-rings out. I want to keep this surface covered because that's where the brake hose goes on, and I don't want to put any paint on that surface. Whatever they coated this with, it stands up to paint thinner. So we'll wipe down the whole thing to make sure there's no grease on it. They say it's coated, but I don't know what it means by it being coated, but it's certainly not paint. We'll put a couple thin coats of primer on it. Okay, we'll let that coat dry and we'll put another coat on. It says dries to the touch in 10 minutes, dries to handle in 15 to 30 minutes at 70 degrees, 50% relative humidity, top coat after 30 minutes. Allow more time for cooler temperatures. So in 30 minutes we can start putting top coat on this. We could take this tire off and take this caliper off while we're waiting for the paint to cure. But the problem with that is that that top coat, once we put the top coat on, takes 48 hours to cure completely. They say 24 hours, but not to recoat until 48 hours, which tells me that the paint's not really cured until 48 hours have passed. So I'm going to wait 48 hours to take this tire off. Time for a top coat. Here we go with the final coat. 48 hours have passed and we can unmask our caliper and reassemble. We'll put a light coat of grease on the end of our pin here. You only have to put it on the end there because that's where it slides. And we'll put a little bit on the threads here where the other slide goes. And notice I'm using very little grease, just that one little dab, and I'm going to do all these parts. These are the O-rings that the caliper slides on. And when we took it apart, there wasn't any grease there, so we could hardly slide it back and forth. And they should slide fairly freely back and forth. So now we need the shoes. To get to the pads, we have to take the old ones off. So here we go. And now we have our shoes. I was lucky I didn't get any paint in there like I wanted, because I want that compression washer to sit right on bare metal. So that worked out real well. And we're going to start putting these O-rings in. And they go in fairly easy. Now we'll make sure it's seated. Okay. Now I put these O-rings in, they're a little more difficult. Well, usually they are. This pad goes there. This pad goes there. This pin goes like so. And this pin goes like so. And slide the caliper in place. Like so. Put the pin in. Okay, both pins are tight. And as you can see, that caliper slides back and forth as it should. What I'm going to do here is take the brake hose off the old caliper and put it on the new caliper. I have the master cylinder open and I've topped it off. And what should happen is I should treat this as a leak. The fluid should come out until I put it on the new caliper, and then it should force the air out of the caliper and into the bottle down there. And when we stop getting air bubbles in the bottle down there, then we know we've got the brake bled. So let's see if we can get this banjo bolt off. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Now we're going to start the leak. So first thing I want to do is dispose of the compression washers because they're one-time use only. I want to compare the two banjo bolts to make sure they're not too long for each other. We'll use new compression washers because you cannot reuse old compression washers. The whole point of it is that you compress the copper, and you compress it once, then you can't compress it again. Now we'll attempt to screw this into the bottom of the caliper. You have a time limit here. You don't want the master cylinder to run dry. Come on, baby, go in. Well, I certainly made a mess of that, but it looks like it's bleeding now. I have to clean that floor up. What a mess. No matter how I do this, I always seem to make a mess. I have quite a mess here to clean up. I don't know, I don't have much luck at doing brake jobs without making a mess. This is paint thinner, and it will help get some of that brake fluid up. And then these are old rags that I've got that I've used, but I can't use again for cleaning something, so we'll just use them to clean this mess up. Well, it's been a half hour and there's no new drips. I think we can put the tire back on. I've jumped on the brakes a bunch of times. If it was going to leak, I think it would have leaked. So now it's time to put the tire back on. Now we'll get it down off the jack stand and I'll clean the rest of the floor. Boy, this certainly turned out to be a mess, but it's done. I can't say that we completed one project, but we were able to complete 6 smaller projects. Although painting the roll cage and the right front caliper turned out to be pretty major jobs, we were able to accomplish it in a week and produce a video. To that end, I think we accomplished what we set out to do, and there will be more.